All right, folks, we're checking back in. It is July 18th. The All Star teams have been announced. We're on a bit of a two-game losing streak right now, but overall, things have been looking up generally, I will say. We are first place in the Pacific Division, so you can't complain too much about that. Now, it is still a close race here between these top four teams us, the Rockies, the Giants, and the A's. The rest of the teams have started to slip out of the race here, but these top four teams all very much still very, very good. Even the Rockies finally putting stuff together here. If we take a look at their history, they had a winning season in 2030, and that was their only other winning season aside from what they're on pace to do this year. So it's been a long time coming for the folks in the beer garden. But yeah, you can see our run differentials up to plus 74, so things overall have been much better since that June 1st check-in. The bats are cooking, the pitchers are doing some stuff, and it's really not how you would expect things to be going down. We're not going to go a full rundown because we're obviously going to go over how the team has been doing at the end of the season, but just a quick little tidbit here and there. One, Mike Hoskins, he's a legit dude. You can see this has all been improving. He's a 60 overall now. His numbers have been incredible this season. Clueless, folks. He has been figuring it out, and he's a legit dude for us. And we've been needing him to be a legit dude because not only did Noah Schultz tore his UCL, but also Jacob Mizraski got surgery to remove bone chips from his elbow, like immediately after going in the rotation. I think he had 5 starts when I checked in. He had one more start, and then boom, just like that, he was out. And, I mean, what can you say? We're going to be missing him and Noah Schultz here. So we've really had to do some patchwork to the pitching rotation here and the staff in general. Lampkin has been still like meh, but it's whatever. Josh Flynn has started turning things around. You can see here he's on fire. If we take a look at his pitching stats here, struggled in May and June, but here in July, he's really been cooking through 3 starts. So hopefully we can that can continue to improve and trend upwards as the rest of the season goes on. Joe Whitman, though, has been a big thing for us. He's slotted right back into the rotation for us, and he's just been insane. He's got a 2 WAR through 19 starts, good ERA plus, good FIP minus. I mean, the guy's just been great. What can you say? Joe Whitman doing the damn thing in the rotation. Nothing to complain about there. Him and Hoskins have been godsends for us this season, holding down the fort with no Schultz and Mizraski. And then the bullpen, couple changes here. You'll see we're rocking one man down right now because we just had somebody we claimed off waivers, Lupe Molina. He got a finger blister, moderate to his throwing for 1 to 2 weeks, so I just threw him on the IL. He'll be back. But for now, he threw 2 innings. They went very well. But for now, he's on the IL. But then taking a look at the rest of this patchwork bullpen here, we have a waiver claim out in somebody right now who's going to come in and slot for Molina while he's out, and maybe he continues the pitch for us. But Juan Machua has been up from Double-A. He was the guy who kind of broke on the scene last year with this incredible 6 WAR season in Double-A in the rotation. He was tearing things up once again in Double-A in the rotation. We called him up. He's not been great, but he is in a long relief, mop-up, avoid high leverage role, so we're just going to keep him in there, getting some experience here in the big leagues. Then we also have Jonathan Santucci, who we claimed off waivers from the Atlanta Braves. Now, this is a guy who was a bit of a risky claim because you can see here he's a fly ball pitcher. We had some issues with keeping the ball in the ballpark for us, but he's got this huge stuff, really good outlook. Jonathan Santucci out of Duke, former teammate of Andrew Healy. Santucci is a big-time prospect in real life, or at least he was entering the season, I would say. He maybe slipped a little bit, but still, big-time prospect. And if you take a look here, last year and this year with Atlanta, some serious home run issues. This year with Atlanta, last year with the Dodgers, some serious home run issues. Bit risky for us to claim this guy, but he's come into our system, 16 appearances, 26 in the 3rd innings, and he's been really good in that stopper role. So they kept using him as a starter. He's had some good times as a starter. I guess really it was just this 1 year in 2032 where he had a really good year, but aside from that, he was mainly a bullpen guy. But now he's back in the bullpen and he's thriving. So hopefully he can continue to do that for us because that's been big for us in this bullpen. Then Tackett has been really solid in the stopper role. Sosa has started figuring things out as well. You can see here above average ERA plus and FIP minus. If we go month by month, he had a really bad May, but then June and July, he's been on fire through 5 appearances, 8 1/3 here in July. So we'd love to see that. Chase Tucson's been up, the lefty guy with the pretty good changeup, who's been down in Double-A just doing his thing. He's up, and he is what am I clicking on history for? He's been up and down, or well, we should probably start this by majors. He came up and was really good in June, and then so far in July, he's kind of struggled a bit, but hopefully, he can figure that out. It's a reliever. They're pretty volatile, as we all know. And then the guy that we have a waiver claim on right now, you can see there's Cam Caminiti. He's up in the big leagues now with the St. Louis Cardinals. And he was good in their bullpen, but I did not put a claim on him because he's a lefty, and I feel like we have way too many lefties in the pen right now. So we did not claim him. What we did claim was Andre Pallant, who his ratings don't look the best, I will admit that, but he's just been like a steady throw him out there. He gives you good performances. Like you see here, he's always got a triple-digit ERA plus. He's always got a double-digit FIP minus. I mean, the guy just goes out there and posts. He's 35, almost 36. He's still doing the damn thing. He was doing it with Atlanta. They waived him. The Yankees then claimed him and then tried to send him back through waivers. And we were like, nah. We need a guy who can limit home runs. Andre Pallant, extreme ground baller. Let's give him a little claim here and see if we can get some magic here from the old man down the stretch. And the All-Star teams have been announced, like I said. We got quite a few All-Stars here for us. Closer, Taro Kaneda makes the All-Star game. We also have our first baseman, Chris Aquino, making the All-Star game. Then we also have our DH, Juan Soto, making the All-Star game, as well as our right fielder, Andres Carrasco, all making the All-Star game here for the Los Angeles Angels. And Aquino and Carrasco were both the top vote getter for their respective positions as well. I should also mention that Aquino and Soto made the All-Star team despite getting hurt. Now, Juan Soto did literally just today, get hurt. He's going to miss 7 weeks. He's on the IL. We'll get into what the lineup's looking like without him. But then also, Mr. Chris Aquino here, he's only got 2 more weeks left on a hamstring strain, but this was 6 weeks, I believe, at the start of it. I believe that's what it was. But Chris Aquino, like I said, he was doing very well for us, but unfortunately he did miss a good chunk of time here, as hopefully he can be back soon and just pick up where he left off, because we do need his bat. But we've been holding our own without Aquino, but we haven't had Aquino and Soto out for a bit, so we're going to see how things go without them. Right now we are we've been rocking Mr. Josephine Fetchko here as the first baseman while Aquino's been out. And he's actually been heating up here. You can see he got the starting gig, and he had immediately his WRC Plus got to like a respectable 94. And then here in July, he's actually been quite good. So hopefully that can keep going. Fetchko playing first base for us with Eric Schmidt coming up to back him up and be a little bit of a lefty bat off the bench as well. And then Jeff Van Wijngaarden is going to be slotting into our DH position here. I thought about possibly having Van Wijngaarden play first base because, he can sort of play it. But, I figured we didn't want him learning the position while playing it in the big leagues. So Van Wijngaarden, now he's going to be slotting in at DH because he's just the better... we could put him in the field, but it's Carrasco has a 7 ZR in right field, and Lesnar has the 75 rating and a 3 ZR in left field. So it's not like we need somebody to come in and play left field for us. So Van Wijngaarden's going to DH while Soto's out, and hopefully we're going to see how that goes, because Van Wijngaarden hasn't really gotten too much playing time this season. Hopefully, these numbers can tick back up to where they were the past 2 years now that he's starting more. And, we'll see how things go. Probably going to look to pick up at least one bat to like hold the line for us heading into the trade deadline. And then also definitely going to look into improve our rotation and our bullpen here with some arms because, we've been, like I said, we've been patchworking this thing together, but it's definitely not like we should not stay put with what we have right now. So I'm here, it's July 26th right now. We're looking around at some bad teams, seeing if they have any interesting relievers, maybe like some fifth starter types. I think I'm more leaning reliever, but we could look for starters too. But anyways, I'm like looking at some of the bad teams. I'm like scrolling around. I'm like, oh, the Cardinals have been bad this year. So I go to their thing and I'm like, man, their rotation has really taken a hit. Luke Pettit is their number one now, which is like not what you want. Like, what the fuck happened here? So then I go to their organization, their injured list, and I don't see the what's his name here. I know Mike Sitow is here. Unfortunate for them that he's missed a ton of time for them because he's one of their legit pitchers. And I don't see what's his name here. They got Garrett Crochet, who's more of a reliever at this point, and also he's been hurt. He's a good arm. He's been hurt, but he's also wrecked. Jordan Walker is hurt for them. He broke his thumb. But then I also see this. I'm like, Andre Zamora, injured, diagnosis pending as a closer. The AI got fucked by the shit we're always getting fucked by. It's just he gets his first like serious injury. He tears his flexor tendon. He comes back from it, and now he's got 30 stamina. Just brutal. Just drops to 30 stamina, and now he's like a dynamic closer, even though he hasn't been like pitching like he's like that level of closer this year. But not even 30, and I mean, he's Mark Pryor. That's what he is, folks. He's Mark Pryor. And they signed him to an insane deal. So oh my God. They've got him making $50 million a year. Oh my God. Yeah. They're they're a bit screwed with this. But in case you're wondering how the other players that we traded to them have been doing, George Lombard actually did have a really, really good 2033 with them. He put up a 3-WAR, 30 home runs. Now he's going to be a free agent here after this season. He's actually on the trade block. Not going to trade for this guy, but he's proven to be a solid player for St. Louis, at least serviceable, with the one really good year in between. And then Mike Broyhill, the center fielder, he's still a center fielder. He's still fragile, but he has had some issues staying on the field, like you would think. He did put up a 2-WAR for them. Similar season to what he did for us with his last year, but he played more games, got more ABs. But overall was a productive player with his glove mainly. Sort of did the same thing he did again in 2033, but played a little bit less. And now this year, starting to, not be great. Mike Broyhill, that's what happened with him. So he's not doing too hot in St. Louis. I also happen to notice that both the Yankees and the Dodgers suck right now. The Dodgers suck, and they have a full bunch of more former players. So if we take a look at their lineups here, Zach Neto, it's over, folks. Zach Neto, he's no longer a guy. 45 rating at second base. He's a backup, and he's a bad backup. Nolan Schanuel has not been good for them this season. He has a sub 100 WRC plus. He actually fractured his hand, missed 5 to 6 weeks on that. I guess he just recently came back from that, and he's been he's been a disappointing hitter, but he hasn't been like the worst. But also, you might notice they're playing him in left field because their roster construction is quite fucked. Vladdy Guerrero is their DH. He is leading off for them. Then they have Graham Pauley, Padres legend, playing first base for them. Put up a really good year for them last year. He's hitting well, but he's he's whatever. And then they've got Schanuel playing left. They've got Carson Williams, who was their star for a long time. Or I guess they got him from Tampa Bay, actually. But anyways, they traded from Tampa Bay. He's been a really good player for them, but they actually have him on the block. This catcher they have has not been anything for them. They've got Homer Bush Jr. from the very nasty university, wrecked injury proneness playing center field for them. Not the guy you want playing center field. They've got Julio Avalos. Wasn't this guy their star? No, this guy was not their star. This is somebody else I'm thinking of. But their star must be hurt, because that would make sense why they're playing so poorly. And then like their pitchers, these guys all seem like they could still be, or I guess maybe not. It's really just Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's starting to come down to the last few years of his contract here. He's still a productive pitcher. Bobby Miller has kind of tailed off towards the end of his career here. They still haven't signed through 2037. Emmanuel Clase, they've got him in the bullpen, getting paid a bunch of money, even though they could use it other places. Ben Joyce also in their bullpen. He's been good for them. So he's like the one former Angel who's actually been good for them. And now that I remember, yes, it's this guy. This guy is their star. He's hurt. He's missed a good chunk of time. Elbow inflammation. So yeah, you're gonna miss this guy. You're definitely not gonna be too hot. Oh yeah, and then they're missing this guy who's their usual second baseman. He's on the IL. They've got Khalil Watson, another former Angel. He's on the IL. They've got Jonathan Whitmer, a guy we were thinking about trading for at one point. He's on the IL. And then the Yankees here, they've got a couple interesting things, at least from my point of view. They've got all these pitchers who are like former stars, and they're all like not bad still, but they're all locked in like quite long term. Like Grayson's locked in, Eric Murphy's locked in, Cade Horton's locked in, Espino is an expiring contract and he's wrecked. Zach Root from the KC Royals was really good with them. Put up a really good year for them last year, but he's been awful this year, and he's locked in. Extreme fly ball guy. They've got Jason Dominguez, who's wrecked. Not what you want. They signed Jackson Churio. He's now wrecked. And then if you're wondering, Amari Grinnage finally got a chance with the team, and it was the Yankees, and he has not proven to be a great player. This was the guy I was looking to play shortstop for us when we were kind of in that transition period. It's not like Dowd had the 1-5 WAR season, but it's not like Dowd has been like a great hitter overall. But Grinnage has not been great either. But he does put up 16 ZRs, which Dowd is not doing quite well right now. Dowd's still got like a 6 ZR, but he's platooning. The shortstop position is a bit of a mess for us at the moment. All right, folks, so it's July 29th. We're a couple days here before the trade deadline, and we have gone ahead and made ourselves 3 minor, but I think help us out down the stretch here, trades. First one, we went out and we acquired, or we actually did these two on the same day. We'll talk about Colin McKay first. We picked up Colin McKay from the Cleveland Guardians, a big stuff fastball slider with a decent changeup, multi-inning relief type guy. He was closing for Cleveland, was not having the greatest season for them, but with relievers, I'm more inclined to trade for guys who are having bad seasons. It's not like I'm looking for guys having bad seasons, but if you're a reliever having a bad year, things can very easily just flip going to a new team. The rest of the season he could be a monster for us. And I think his ratings are good enough to where he is a guy that we should be absolutely picking up here, and we did. So 30-year-old, almost 31-year-old Colin McKay. He does have a couple years of team control at 4.2 next year. Maybe we bring him back at that. Maybe we trade him. Who knows? But for the rest of the season, at least, Colin McKay is going to be a part of our rotation. He's a ground ball, or not a rotation, our bullpen as a ground ball pitcher. We traded John Harrington, who's like this all-power. He does have some BABIP, but he strikes that way too much, even in AAA. Like, he makes Chris Lesnar look like a contact hitter type guy. So, John Harrington, now in Cleveland, they're apparently playing him at shortstop. We'll see how that works. I think he could be a productive player, at least with the home runs, give you some decent bat, but he's just going to strike out way too much. So we were fine giving him up. And he's also fluctuated with his overalls. Like I think he was even like a 55 at one point for us. But anyways, he goes to Cleveland along with Dwayne McKinney, who's like an interesting reliever that we got from Colorado, I believe. Yeah, he came over in the Mike Lilly trade with Brock Wilken. Mike Lilly's now on Baltimore. So we now have neither of these guys. Mike Lilly had some decent years for us. Dwayne McKinney never really got a chance, but he's going to be in Columbus, it looks like, with Cleveland. And then we also picked up Chase Dolander from the Atlanta Braves. He had put up a couple decent seasons for them. Only 11 starts for them this year. He's been really good. He put up a 2 WAR for them last year after putting together some decent seasons in Colorado as a fly ball pitcher. So, he is a bit home run happy sometimes, but this year he's been solid with not giving up too many home runs. And like even in Colorado, he's had some years where 1.9 is starting to get up there, but 1.5 or like 1.5, 1.4, 1.3 in Colorado, that's impressive. So the guy's used to pitching in parks like that. We pick him up as a part of our rotation here to help solidify our pitching staff down the stretch. And the Braves are currently kind of in the mix. The thing about them is, there are 4 wildcard teams. They have a team in front of them. I guess they just won after I just simmed a couple days, but they were like 2-8 in their last 10 when I made the trade. And then also, if you look at their expanded standings here, they are a negative run differential team. So I just kind of made the executive decision to be like, they were like 2-8 in their last 10 when I made the trade. They had multiple teams in front of them. I was like, it's probably a long shot that they're going to make the playoffs. So we made the decision to pick up Dolander. And so we pick up Dolander for... Come on, go back to the thing. I know I could have just... Here we go. We pick up Dolander for a couple interesting prospects. Steve Bryant, 24-year-old. He's going to be immediately in Atlanta for them. He is a guy who can absolutely play in the big leagues. We just have such a logjam at corner outfield right now, and we have like set guys there at the moment and we have plenty of guys like Steve Bryant around in the system, some guys even a little bit better. So I was good giving him up. He could be a decent player for them, but that was who they got from us, Steve Bryant. And then they also got this Australian catcher who's a bit far away from the big leagues, but he's got an interesting profile. Going to strike out a ton, but he's got a very similar profile to John Harrington, where he's got a decent BABIP with the huge power and the big eye. He's a captain personality class as a good framing catcher, work ethic, intelligence. Maybe we see him at some point in Atlanta. Maybe we don't. He's a switch hitter as well. Thought he was an interesting prospect, but I was fine giving him up. And then once I offered those two, they were like, hey, if you give us Josh McCollum, we'll do the trade. So I was like, here, you can have Josh McCollum. It's whatever. He was a 20th round pick of ours out of Air Force Academy, literally a 20th round pick. So now he's helping us pick up a starter here for our playoff push. Then we also picked up Travis Bizuna. He's now on our team here, folks. The Aussie man himself. Currently suspended. That was ranging back to his time with Minnesota. Has some good power, gap power, good speed profile. More of a first baseman than he is a left fielder. We do have him playing first base, so I'm just going to change his position to first base. He can give us some second base. Not great second base, but, he's not a great defender, but he's got an interesting bat, and we needed a bat I feel like, to help us get through this Juan Soto injury and the rest of the Aquino injury, and then, maybe he's a part of the lineup heading into the playoffs. Maybe he's like a really good bench player, pinch hitter for us. Who knows? But for right now, Travis Bizuna is playing first base for us. I just said it American. Travis Bizuna. I'm sure there is an Australian guy watching this who's like, shut the fuck up, stop doing that accent. But I can't help it. I see the name, it's just boom, pops in my head, I've got to say it. But so Travis Bizuna is now a part of our team here. And those are the 3. Oh, I should mention that we gave up Dan Partain, who's like an interesting power corner outfield guy. Like I said, we've got a logjam of corner outfielders. He was a 10th round pick of ours. And then we also gave up the QC Jeremy Tellier. QC guys love naming themselves or they love being named Jeremy. Sometimes it'll be like Jeremie with the accents over the E's, and it's just a crazy spelling. But, this guy, maybe he could be a decent reliever someday, but I was fine giving him up. I basically offered them Partain for Bazana, and they were like, hey, what if you give us Terrier? So I was like, there you go. You have him. Now we've got Travis Bazana here on our team, and we're going to see how the rest of the season goes. All right, so it's here. The actual trade deadline mini-game thing is happening right now. I wasn't planning on doing anything. Also, if you're wondering why this Tanner Houck thing is here, Tanner Houck, still pitching, 38 years old, still having a good season, but the Brewers are actually like second place in the Great Lakes division, so I was like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to trade for Tanner Houck. So it's just still there from the residual offer. But I see the Expos are offering me Justin Crawford here. And the Expos are in a weird spot right now where I would not do this for Jeff Janicki because I think this Janicki guy could actually be an interesting player for us. Maybe not. I don't know. But he's got the 55 shortstop, so maybe he's more of like a... But I think this bat is interesting. He's got the adaptability. We could throw him in the lab, see if we can get him around. So I think Janicki is worth holding on to here. But I saw, and if this just goes by, I'll just do it again the next day. But they've been offering me Crawford. You can see I'm getting all these trade proposals. They offered it for Sweetenberg. They offered Crawford for Ken Fine. They offered Crawford for Janicki. They offered Crawford for this 75 grade international free agent signing, as well as this guy thrown onto it. I think the one that interests me the most is Kamani Sweetenberg, who was a third-round pick of ours in a bit of a weaker draft class. He's gotten off to a dreadful start to his minor league career here. Now, he does look like he could be a really good shortstop defensively, but the bat is just going to be really, really bad to the point where it's just like, I don't think this guy is going to make it, and he just strikes out a ton to the point where it's just like, we cannot have that at shortstop for us. The trade offer's still there. So what I'm thinking is... Oh, I should also talk about the Expos. So the Expos, they were in the mix for the playoffs, but as you can see here, they're negative 47 run differential. They're 50 and 57. They are not in the mix anymore. They're 4 games back. Ton of teams in front of them for that last wild card spot. So the Expos, they are firmly out of it here. And trading Justin Crawford makes sense for them. He is a guy who was with Philly for a long time. And he was like their center fielder for a long time, putting up like really, really solid years. He was a very productive player for them. Went to Minnesota last year, was not good. Signed a minor league deal with the Montreal Expos, and he has been an absolute spark for them. A 3 WAR, triple-digit WRC plus, 31 doubles. He's not striking out a ton like you would expect from him, giving his career numbers here. His BABIP's running a little bit hot, but it's nothing too crazy, stealing a bunch. And he's a very, very productive player. He's a leader. He's got some really good defense, really good base running and speed. He's a decent bat. So what I'm thinking is that we trade Sweetenberg for him, and then that would make it so he basically takes this Urbanowicz spot, and maybe he is the DH and Van Wijngaarden is the Urbanowicz spot. Who knows? We could do something where Urbanowicz is no longer on the team right now, and Justin Crawford slots in. And also, I should mention that Fletcher Clancy is actually playing center field for us right now because he has been incredible for us. Ever since I started playing him every third day, he's just been a really solid center fielder for us with the bat, and he's obviously playing a very solid center field. So maybe... So what I'm thinking is that right now Crawford would take Urbanowicz's spot on the team, and then once Soto comes back and Van Wijngaarden goes back to the bench, or Crawford goes back to the bench, whichever one we decide to play, then we would probably send down Canalate, who just hasn't been good. You know, he is improving. I should mention these ratings are going up. I still believe in Canalate long term. Like I said, these ratings continue to go up, but right now he is just not that guy. He's on the team basically as a defensive replacement and a pinch runner, and Crawford could fill that spot for us, and also a lefty bat, which Crawford could also fill for us. So I'm thinking that once Soto comes back, we rock Van Wingarden and Crawford on the team, and we send down Konolate and Urbanowitz. So that is what I'm thinking. Also, I'm seeing that the Dodgers just traded Ben Joyce to the Royals, along with this prospect and cash for this prospect and this prospect. Very weird trade, but whatever. But yeah, I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to go Crawford for Sweetenberg straight up. We're going to add Sweetenberg to the interesting list because he is interesting. We're going to keep tabs on him, see how his career goes. But we're going to do this. Justin Crawford for Kamani Sweetenberg. Folks, we have reached the end of the 2034 campaign, and the Los Angeles Angels have had themselves a hell of a season, folks. As you can see, Josh Skinny Flynn here. I think his name is Skinny, isn't it? Josh Flynn gets the most pitching wins in the league. Not something I really give a shit about, but, pops up as an achievement. Gets that dopamine going in your brain. Ooh, we got the pitching wins. The big thing for us here, 104 total wins, clinching first place in that Pacific Division. Remember when this was all bunched up in the top 6 teams? Well, we separated ourselves. 104 wins. That is our first 100-win season. What did we win, 99 last year? We're cooking with gas here in Los Angeles, or here in Anaheim, I should say. And things are looking pretty solid here heading into the playoffs. As if we take a look at our team stats page, it's just been an absolute tear heading into the end of the season here. I mean, trade deadline happens in July. We're 15-10. Trade deadline happens, and we're 21-7, 20-6 in August and September, respectively. It's just, things are going swimmingly. Bunch of 2s up here. We're first in WAR, third most runs scored in the American League, second in hits, first in home runs. We're even third in strikeouts, so we're not even striking out a ton this season. We're still base running well as well. Jesus Christ. Pitching side of things, bunch of 1s up here. The best pit starters ERA, the best bullpen ERA, first in runs allowed, first in hits allowed, first in opponent's average, first in BABIP, tied for fourth in home runs allowed, fourth in walks, second in Ks, the best defensive efficiency, and the second best zone rating. I mean, incredible team. Just an insane team. You take a look at the expanded standings here. A plus 241 run differential, which was the best in the league by 1 run because the Miami Marlins had 105 wins. So that's on paper looking like Angels-Marlins would be the marquee matchup in the World Series. But you don't play the games on paper. So, taking a look at our pitching staff here, best WAR on the team, Yuri Perez, doing it again, folks. A 4-WAR season with a 7-R WAR, incredible ERA plus, 83 FIP minus. I mean, the guy is just insane. He's been an absolute stud for us ever since we picked him up from those Marlins teams, and you would think that when he leaves the Marlins with their sort of budget they've got going, that he would leave the Marlins and they would instantly just collapse and not be a good team anymore. But credit to the Marlins. They've been an absolute stud franchise the past few seasons going, even without Yuri Perez. So, he's been great for us the 4 years we've had him, and we've still got him signed through his age 34 season. Assuming he does not opt out after this year, he could, but hopefully he doesn't. Mike Hoskins. Folks, he just had an absolute breakout this season. He is up to a 60 overall. Look at all this green and still room for growth as well as he just keeps growing. 24 years old, having the breakout year. Entered the year at 23, now he's 24. A 4 WAR if you round up, a 5 R WAR, 161 ERA plus, 78 FIP minus, 24 strikeout rate, and then a 5 walk rate with a sub-1 home run rate. I mean, he was great. What can you say? Justin Lampkin, ended up rebounding. He got off to a bit of a rough start in April, kind of a meh in May. June, he got a bit unlucky with the ERA, and then boom, turned it on in July, was incredible. August was great. September was great. Justin Lampkin just back to being what he was. He's just a stud. Josh Flynn, also, as we know, led the league in wins. So if we take a look at the basic pitching stats, 18-win season for Josh Flynn. But taking a look at our stat page here, whatever the hell you call it, he puts up a 3 WAR for us. Very similar numbers that he had last year. I mean, this is what he is. This is what he is. He's a solid, 4-3 starter for your team. And he filled his role, and we ended up having a really solid season with him in the rotation. Chase Dolander, coming over at the deadline from the Atlanta Braves, and he was an absolute monster for us. He was good for the Braves, and he was very good for us as well. The ERA plus ticked up. The FIP minus was even better. He struck out a ton more guys, was walking less guys. The home run rate was about the same. I mean, he was great. What can you say? Chase Dolander, we get him as a expiring contract free agent, the former University of Tennessee man. He's a big part of our rotation. Joe Whitman, folks, he was great. With his 12 starts, he was fantastic, and then he was also fantastic in the bullpen. Just great splits. We should look at his major league. 12 starts here in the big leagues, just fantastic line. 2 WAR you round up, great ERA plus, great FIP minus. Then he goes to the bullpen once we make that Dolander trade, and boom, he's just like, okay, I could be a nasty reliever. His strikeout rate goes up. His K minus walk percentage is 24.2. His home run rate still allowing less than 1. I mean, he's great. Joe Whitman, 33 years old, just showing what he does. The Mac Man. We love it. Out of Kent State, out of Hudson, Ohio. We love it. We love the Mac, folks. Cullen McKay comes over at the deadline, pitches us 18 innings, was great in those 18 innings. Nothing else to write home about there. Josh Tackett with the big development boost in the offseason in the lab. He moved his movement up 10 points, and that movement helped him be a solid reliever for us this year. Got a bit lucky. The FIP minus wasn't the best, but it was around league average, and then he had a great ERA with a solid line. K minus walk ticked up, but it's not the greatest, but still a productive reliever for us in the bullpen. Lupe Molina had some decent innings for us down the stretch. Jorge Sosa ended up turning things around, being a solid player for us with 93 innings out of the bullpen. You take a look at his splits. April was kind of meh, bit lucky. May got rocked. June was great. July was great. August was fantastic. September, kind of meh. But hopefully he can figure things out as we head into the postseason here. Then we also had Juan Machua up at the end of the season. We want to make sure he's a reliever here. Juan Machua, he started figuring things out in a little mop-up, avoid high leverage role. You can see here 9 innings and 5 appearances in September since coming back up for his second stint because he went down when he struggled here in June and July, and then he came back up in September, and he was great in that role. So Juan Machua, he is what he is. I still believe that he can be a very solid reliever for us down the stretch, but this was his first taste of the big leagues. Shamar, he came up for a second stint because his season started off quite poorly. Came up, August was not great, September was great. So Shamar, bit up and down, he was a reliever. Jonathan Santucci, we take a look at his numbers split between Atlanta and us, was just dreadful with Atlanta, was solid with us. Wasn't like a great bullpen guy, but Santucci did his role. He was solid with him and Tackett as the 2 stopper guys down the stretch for us, lefty-righty, double-barrel action. Now, you may be wondering, where the hell's Kaneda? Well, folks, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that we also missed Mizrowski and Schultz. I should also mention that Lavonis was pitching poorly for us in the big leagues. We sent him down to AAA, and he was great in the rotation. Boom, torn rotator cuff. Another pitching injury. Kaneda, partially torn UCL. Out for 5 months. I mean, it was just wreaking havoc on our pitching staff all throughout the organization. And Kaneda got hurt again, so not great. We do have him for next year guaranteed at 15, but then we have some team options after that. So, you know, if he's awful in 2035, we just don't bring him back in 2036, and we're going to be able to just walk away from him. You know, he was productive in the role that he had, but the injuries definitely got in the way of Kaneda really being a legit player for us. Now we take a look at the bats here, sort by WAR. Chris Aquino, 6 WAR season, a 189 WRC plus, and 48 home runs, even with missing 6 to 7 weeks with a hamstring strain. Even with that, hits 48 home runs, leads the American League. That's back-to-back years of leading the American League in home runs. He drops his strikeout rate to 24, folks. What can you even say? Chris Aquino is an absolute monster, and as we know, we have him locked up through 2041, his age 30 season. Then he has an opt-out, and then he has 2 more years after that if he opts into it, with a vesting option in that last season. So Chris Aquino here, I mean, he's fantastic, folks. What can we say? Even with the injury, putting up a 6 WAR. Juan Padilla, what can you say about him? Another 4 WAR season. You round up, that's a 5 WAR season for Juan Padilla. 135 WRC plus, 25 plus doubles, 30 home run season, 100 ribbies, almost 100 runs, 93. Does not strike out, less than 20% of the time strikeout rate. Another solid OPS. And he was a solid defender at third base, a positive ZR. Juan Padilla he's just fantastic. He was our 2-hitter this year as well. Andres Carrasco, he sees the Indian hitting guru in the offseason, and he puts up basically the same thing he's been doing his whole career. Another 4 WAR season, 120 WRC plus, 37 doubles, 32 home runs, 95 ribbies, 87 runs, strikeouts less than 20% of the time. He did exactly what we would have expected him to do on our team this season while playing a fantastic right field for us. I don't think he's ever played... Yeah, no. He did not ever play... He had 2 really good years in right field beginning of his career, and then he kind of just forgot how to play right field, it seems like. And then he remembered how to play it and put up his best CR of his career at age 28. Andres Carrasco was fantastic for us. Justin Crawford came over for us. He was solid, 1 WAR, triple-digit WRC plus, and 158 innings, or 158 plate appearances. He was solid. Aiden Huzzy started turning things around, doing Juan Padilla 2.0 shit. His season got off to a little bit of a slow start. April, May, not great, but then June, he starts putting it together. July, he's on fire. August, he's a man possessed. And then it kind of cooled off in September. But, we were playing a lot of meaningless games in September. Still won 104 games. Aiden Huzzy, I'm not worried. He's Juan Padilla 2.0, folks. Juan Soto missed a bunch of time this season, but still puts up a 2.6 WAR, 130 WRC plus, 20 home runs, 28 swipe bags at age 35. Walks a ton, doesn't strike out. He does what he does. He's Juan Soto, folks. Fletcher Clancy puts up a 2.5 WAR season with a triple-digit WRC plus, 23 doubles. Does not walk, but he also strikes out, and there's a comically low rate. 753 OPS. Great year for him while putting up a 13 ZR in center field. Fantastic for the Quebecois center fielder. Kind of messed up. Quebecois. I know how to say it. Chris Lesnar. He missed a bunch of time this season. Wasn't his greatest year, but still a productive 2 WAR, triple-digit WRC plus, 28 home runs, a huge strikeout rate. So even with the development boost in the dev lab to improve his 2-strike approach, it's now up to 40. He's just a guy who strikes out a shit ton. It's what it is. But he plays a decent left field, hits a bunch of home runs. The guy shows up in the postseason every year. We'll hope to see it keep the continuing, even with the strikeout rate. Chris Lesnar, he's a flawed player, but he's a fun player. Logan O'Hoppe, he's at the point in Mike Trout. He's at the point that Mike Trout was at, where he's still productive, barely, but he's to the point where we might have to look to honestly just to not have him play in the playoffs. Honestly, he had 23 home runs, but I mean, you can see here August was bad, September was good, but we're not going to not DH Juan Soto and DH Logan O'Hoppe, and his defense is now to the point where it's like it's bad. It's bad defense, folks. So we might just have to play Frank Anaya here at catcher and hope we can get some really good defense at catcher with a decent bat behind it. He put up a 1 WAR for us as a backup. We're at that point where we've got Logan O'Hoppe signed long term. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, but we're gonna have to do what we're gonna have to do, and we might start Frank and I at catcher in the playoffs. We'll see what we decide, but definitely Logan O'Hoppe starting to decline here at age 34. Travis Bezuna coming over from the trade deadline. He was fine, nothing too special, but he was fine. Josephine Fetchko, he wasn't really anything too special, but he had his moments. He's a decent bench player to have with some versatility, some good base running ability as well. And then Cholowski was just bad. Alvaro Dowd actually got hurt down the stretch here. You can see he's ready to come back. He did not have a great season, but he still plays a decent shortstop, and he'll be our shortstop in the playoffs here because we were actually rocking somebody else as our shortstop, Mr. David Guadarrama here, who was an international free agent signing in 2030. Got up to Double-A this year. Put up a respectable WRC plus for a defense first guy. 2 WAR. Really nobody else in the organization who can play shortstop. He is eligible for the Rule 5 draft this upcoming offseason, so I was just like, fuck it. Let's just get him in there in September. Get him some innings at shortstop. He played 12 games. Did not hit at all. But held his own at shortstop. Was really good at shortstop in Double-A. Maybe he's a shortstop for us at some point, but I definitely rushed him up to the big leagues, but it was just kind of like I didn't want to see what Cholowski was going to do for us, so let's just get this guy up here in September while we're playing a bunch of meaningless games. Like I said, he was eligible for the Rule 5 draft this offseason, so we were going to put him on the 40-man anyways. We had a spot because Kaneda got hurt, so we might as well put him on there. And then just taking a quick comb through the batting leaders here. We knew that Chris Aquino led the American League, led the whole league, led the entire Major League Baseball in home runs with 48 this season. Love to see it. And then the number 2 guy, as well as the top OPS in the league, is Jaquat Spiteri here, this Venezuelan Italian on the Miami Marlins. Big part of this team being absolute studs. This guy, insane year. He's just an incredible power hitter for them. Does it all as a second baseman who can 80 turn DP. Is he playing a decent? No, he should be your first baseman. Put him at first base. Just do it, please. Please. Aquino, top 5 in WAR with a 6 WAR. Mr. Juan Trujillo here, the shortstop for the Washington Nationals, has the best WAR in the in Major League Baseball. The most sack hits on the season belong to Kyron Paris. What a record to have. A negative WAR. He's not a good shortstop anymore. Kyron Paris, late career here, not doing too hot in Toronto. Then you take a look at the pitching leaders here. We've got Yuri Perez, top 5 in ERA, the number 1 being Bob Noon. Bob Old Soul Noon at a St. Cloud State University, 3rd overall at a St. Cloud State. I'm pretty sure I saw this guy get taken and I said that he looks like he's going to be pretty good. Well, folks, this guy's a stud. He's a stud until he gets hurt. But as of right now, he's shoving for the Tampa Bay Rays and leads Major League Baseball in ERA. And then you can see Josh Flynn led the American League in wins, and then Perez had 17 wins, 1 behind Flynn. You can also see that Mr. Dan Devine here of the San Francisco Giants struck out 311 batters this season with this guy's insane. One of the many guys who have come up through this Giants system. I mean, they should be an absolute wagon here if they're not already. What was their record this year? Yeah, they're a playoff team, so we might see them in the playoffs this year. Well, to see even the Rockies made the playoffs. We'll go over the playoff bracket here in a second. But Dan Devine, 300 Ks, most in the league. Lowest whip, a sub 3 guys with a sub 1 whip in Major League Baseball this season, the lowest being a .87 of Yuri Perez. Fantasy owners love this guy. Then you got Perez, top 5 in ERA plus, top 4 even. He's top 5 in R-WAR. He's the best BABIP in the league with a 209, lowest opponent's average. He's a top 4 win percent. The most holds in the league belongs to Jonathan Santucci, with, I believe, all of those were with us. No, I guess he probably had maybe a couple with Atlanta, but the vast majority of them were with us. Does it show holds on basic pitching stats? It does not. Does it show it on expanded? It's probably like right in front of me and I'm not even seeing it. What about here? Holds. Is there holds? So he got 1 hold with Atlanta, 24 with us. So, yeah. Vast majority with us. And then Logan O'Hoppe, the catcher's ERA was still good, despite him being just god-awful with the framing, with the ZR. I'm not really sure what the ZR is for a catcher, but god-awful framing, but still a really good catcher's ERA. And he also was still up there in range. Whatever, that really means. But I guess he still has decent blocking, so maybe we do roll with him, see how it goes, because he is Logan O'Hoppe still. And I don't know if I want to put in Frank Anaya to be our catcher for the playoffs, but we'll have to see how it goes. If O'Hoppe doesn't hit, it's just boom, immediately Anaya's in there. But the leash is going to be short for him, I would say. And then, of course, Ethan Salas with the highest caught stealing percentage, as well as the highest framing runs, because he is just incredible. Ethan Salas with the 80 grade all over the place. He has really been this insane catcher. He puts up these great WARs every season with a terrible bat, and it doesn't matter. He's in Raleigh doing the thing. Now, unfortunately, it has not helped Raleigh win any games, but he's down there doing his thing. And then number 2 is Mr. Juan Arenas here, who the Padres got from us, because I think I made the note last year that the Padres replaced Salas with Juan Arenas here, who they got for us in the Jeremiah Estrada trade. And I should also mention that they did bring back Jeremiah Estrada, who had a good year for them. So they have everybody on that trade on their team now. But they did not make the playoffs this season, so we will not be upset by the stinky San Diego Padres this year. Instead, this is what your playoff bracket looks like. We have the first round bye. So do the Washington Nationals. And then in the National League, you have the Miami Marlins and the Detroit Tigers. As Superchunk says, Detroit has a skyline, but they've also got themselves a baseball team. First round bye here for them as they win 91 games coming out of the Great Lakes Division. And then you have the Reds, Rangers, Guardians, and Brewers as the wildcard teams, and the Rockies, A's, Mets, and Giants, 3 Pacific Division teams, 4 total with us here in the playoffs on the American League side of things.